Welcome to the Mindset Design Podcast with your host, Arlen Moore. In this podcast, the hope is to provide the listener with actionable advice and inspiration to inspect their own mindset and make the changes they need to achieve success and fulfillment in their own life. Guests include celebrities, multimillionaires, social media stars, artists, and everyday people who have found their internal happiness and created a life they perhaps at one point never thought possible. If you'd like to support the show and learn more about mindset design, visit mindsetdesign.com or go to who.be/Arlen. That's HOO.be/Arlen. Or simply share an episode with a friend. That would be fire. Enjoy the show, and here's your host, Arlen.
Yeah, I moved to a new city last March, pretty much right when everything started getting shut down, right? And at this point, yeah. And at this point, I was just kind of going through it, really focused on that opportunity, all the stuff with like Maxi and the mentoring program. The mentoring program didn't even exist yet. I think you were in the process of updating some things and like probably planning to do that, but it wasn't like out there. And then I got laid off from a job, the job that I moved here for, spent some time at home for about a month.
Because of COVID?
Yeah. And I was working in pro sports, so that got hit pretty hard. And then kind of had to like recalibrate. And I was in a place where I was either about to start a new job or I was in the first few weeks of a new job the one that I'm still doing now. And I don't know, I was just kind of in a position where I could like take a risk and like see where it went, because I was honestly just a bit like frustrated, or just like I didn't have a good amount of clarity on like what I wanted to do in this place. I kind of felt like my head was all over, and I had a lot of like cool ideas, and I wanted to like, it's like I wanted to do everything at once, right? And you kind of have to take it like step by step. So yeah, I think I joined the mentoring program like maybe October, 2 weeks before it launched. I think it was in September, because it hadn't launched yet. It was like a couple weeks before.
Yeah, it might have been September. So.
Yeah. So it was a few weeks before. Didn't really know what to expect. I mean, you told me
your
like
main goal was really to build a social circle, because you had
been
in this new city and it was quarantine, and
I didn't know anyone. I knew like 3 people.
Anybody. Right.
Yeah, I knew a few people. With my career field, I felt like there was going to be a ton of opportunities to, network, whatever. And I wasn't seeing like the results of that, right? So it was kind of a thing where I felt like I kept on hitting like roadblocks almost. And I felt like the people I was meeting, just the things I was trying to get going, just kind of were always getting halted. So I was like, I'll try something new. And I think I had been on just like the standard like Maxi, whatever the basic thing was at the time. And I found like some success in using that, but I don't think I was utilizing it as good as I do now. Obviously, the context wasn't really there. But I don't know. You just told me like, hey, try this out, see what you think for a month. And I think after like 3 weeks, I started noticing some pretty dramatic changes in the opportunities that were kind of coming my way. I felt like I was revitalizing my Instagram. Like I knew I was working on cool things. I wasn't promoting it well. So I started doing that a bit better, which is one thing that like that course really helped with. And then just kind of the feedback from like calls with you. And I guess at the time it was like maybe 30 to 40 other people. It was pretty small, but it was like a good group just to bounce stuff off on. And I would, message other people. And obviously we all have very diverse interests, but that was just super great to like hear and like, come back the next week. And there was a lot of like calls to action. Like there was no like chance to sit around. Like that's another great thing too, is you kind of plan out your day to day, right? And you have like your weekly things you want to hit. And I was starting to see that like become a thing for me, and stuff went from like, just like the goals I was setting.
Okay. So they were just like actually unfolding into your real life.
Yeah, I was starting to see kind of the things that I was wanting to have happen. And they were more
So
simple.
like
They were
what?
more,
Like, yeah, go ahead.
for instance, I think at the start, I was just wanting to get, a couple more like freelance projects to work on in between, the shoots I was doing for work. I think a few weeks after that, I had like back to back weekends where I either had people reach out to me through seeing my work on Instagram or just like friends out of nowhere or like people that I knew from college out of nowhere that were just in the city asked me to help them out. Kind of from that point, it was like the like umbrella almost unfolding to like the networking connections that I have now. So it was just like simple stuff like that, like wanting to get a little extra freelance work, wanting to, meet like X amount of people in like this career field or like this area of the city. And I was starting to do that. And that was like one of the big like halting points that I had before because it was like I wanted to do that for whatever reason. I just wasn't able to accomplish that on my own, or I didn't know how to go about it. So that's something that was like a very big help. Yeah, and then it's progressed to now to where like I think it was like last month I worked on a full on like TV set production for like a 3-day gig, and that's pretty much like my whole rent payment's paid for in 3 days. Like it's I'm getting bigger opportunities now, and it's really really cool. And again, that's kind of just the direct result of continuing this process, having like that self confidence to promote yourself. Like Instagram's huge, and it's kind of funny. You can kind of see where that shift started. Like obviously, I've removed a bunch of the stuff that doesn't make sense, but that whole process was very interesting to talk through and how big of a deal it is. And I moved from like thinking about all of that as just like a place to do nothing and just watch what my friends are doing to a place where I can really like market myself. And in a city like this, like there are people like that's how I get work opportunities all the time. People will see something from like a hashtag, or I've met other people through like other creative people through seeing my work through that process. And I've been able to like do stuff with them, or they've referred stuff to me just through doing like simple things like that. So again, it's just kind of like a mindset shift. It's been a very interesting process to see unfold. I'm really curious to see how the rest of this year unfolds now that stuff's a little more open and things are, getting back to 100% with everything. So that's really cool.
So what were you making per month like in September? And what
Mhm.
was the most you had made in a month before the program?
Yeah. So at that point in time, I had a pretty standard like 9 to 5 income, like entry level income. At the
So then
time, I
you
was
got laid off.
making, right. Yeah. And then I picked that up. I picked up a different job in digital marketing, doing the same type of work. And it was a bit more money, but still around that same salary range. And then at the time in September, I wasn't making any money from freelance. And I had been spending from like March to September, I had been wanting to kind of make that more of a thing. And then since that point, I'd say after maybe November, December, I've been consistently getting like 1 to 2 or more freelance projects per month, or having those conversations to plan them out for future months. And I mean, that's an additional maybe like 500 to 1,000 a month without even really thinking about it. And it's really cool. Like, because one, like I love doing this stuff, but also it's kind of nice to have like a bit of extra security as well. And I do credit like the mentoring program to like how I got about to that point to where that was possible and where that was happening pretty often. So it's been pretty great.
Awesome. So it's obviously helped you with your business. Seems like it's
Mhm.
made you an extra. You said 500 to 1,000 a month, and it
Mhm.
is May. So we have January, February, March, April, May. You
Mhm.
have September, October, November, December. It's roughly 8 months. So between you've probably made $4,000 to $8,000
Mhm.
off freelance work in the last several months.
Yeah,
Pretty
I'd
good
say
ROI.
so. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's what I knew going into it. Like obviously there's, that monetary investment to it. And it's split up well. I mean, I didn't like pay it all right away or anything, but I knew that, the quality I would be getting back from that decision was probably going to be a lot more than what I was investing into it. And I mean, even now, like, things are technically wrapped up with like the program for me, but I still utilize this stuff all the time. I reference the stuff we talk about. I check it in on the calls when, if you don't have the time conflicts. I've been literally in the airport every week this month, like traveling for shoots. Like I leave for Chicago tomorrow. I'm just kind of all over. Like I said, I was in Miami last
Is
week.
that for
It's
your
been
job
crazy.
or is that for freelance?
It's for my job, which is a cool perk. But in my head, I am looking to get to a point, or I could see a point where that could become a thing for freelance too. And maybe that's like the next yearly goal I can kind of put my energy into, because I think that'd be a pretty cool situation as well. But yeah, so it's just been crazy to see the turnaround, I guess.
So what have been some wins? Because obviously, it's helped your business. What about your
Hmm.
just your social life? I don't know if you want to go into like dating but I'm even just like
Yeah,
your
sure.
friends and the types of people that you've been able to meet as well, and those types of wins. Because you said you only knew 3 people in
I
September.
literally did. I knew 3 people in a city of like 2 million. So yeah, I know like a few people from college and like one of my friends from like sports, like growing up in like junior tournaments and all of that. That was it. And it went from that to connecting with a ton of people through some like freelance work opportunities, and also I was always pretty intentional with like meeting with my points of contact for like my like work gigs, and the actors associated with that stuff I would always keep up with, and I got to know some of their friends. So as of this point, as far as like friend group stuff goes, I mean, I went from, like, as I kind of discussed with you, wanting to be in a position where people would kind of reach out to me to like just say, hey, this is going on. Like, I know what's going around town, because I didn't really know that. And I wanted that to be a thing, but I hate being the person that like wants to ask someone, oh, what's up? Like, what's going on tonight? And that doesn't really happen anymore. And that was like a big sticking point that you talked to me about. You were like, once you start focusing on certain things, that really will become the case for you. And I mean, it happens all the time now. And with like how open this city is, that could be like an any night thing, which is really cool. So yeah, I've made some really great friends. Uh, just either like one through work, but most of it's been through just the freelance and networking stuff that I've been doing. They're connected to different industries, like they know about some of the coolest places in town to like do things. And obviously I was very unaware. I didn't know any of that. I was wanting to get to a point where I did. And I feel like I am now, at least some extent. Other than that, I mean, I started seeing a girl in November, and
Oh
since
wow, so you met a
January,
girl pretty quickly after joining.
yeah, September to November, it was pretty much right after the week where we discussed like just qualities you want to see in people in your life, and how to kind of bring that energy your way once you're focusing on what you want to see, how, to be like selective and all of that. I don't want to get like too much into it, but like that whole
Right.
idea.
Are you still with the
And
girl?
yeah, and we've been dating since January. So,
Wow.
and it's going great, and it's very much, in a way, like, just she exudes a lot of the things that I was, pretty much all the things I was looking for, and having the awareness to like, define what that is, was like really helpful to see, because I was totally in like networking mode. I was in like, I'm focusing on my career path and going forward, but I've been doing that for like a year and a half, and it just kind of took me by surprise. Like, it wasn't like, the highest thing on the list for me. It was just kind of a thing where I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. I kind of know what I want, and yeah, it's worked out really great. So that's been another kind of big thing. that I definitely attribute to like all of this stuff. I mean, between the conversations I had with people, I mean, we talk about, relationship type stuff on calls all the time. All that's been very beneficial. And I can see how it's impacted me in a positive way to
So what were
become
the
like,
specific, because you had results so quickly, what were the
mhm,
specific things that you did? Because I'm imagining someone who, is in a similar position to you. Like, what would you tell yourself when you had
right.
three friends in that city? What were the biggest specific things that you did that ended up building your social circle and then even meeting a girl
Yeah.
and start dating her?
I I had to force myself to do things at times that didn't feel the most comfortable. I had to like let, especially with people in the group, like there's a lot of times where I would say something and within the next week, like you're asking about it or other people I'm with or not with, but like in the group are also asking about it.
So
We
the
have like
accountability aspect.
the accountability is really big.
So, but what were the
This
things that you actually had to do that you were uncomfortable to do?
I mean, obviously, I had just started a new job in September. So by October, I was still feeling that out. There were a lot of things associated with it. And honestly, in my head, I was pretty tired and I was still forcing myself to like go out on Saturdays and Sundays after I had like, maybe even three like business, work shoots that week and still did more just with some of the people that I had met just for the sake of networking and knowing that I needed to be doing it. And I was setting goals that, this week I should do this and I will need to do it to progress. So that was one thing. Um, I think like coming into the calls, like really being aware of myself and like wanting to ask like questions that were going to be beneficial. That I wasn't just like sitting there a lot of the time. Like I really was there to find out stuff that I needed to know because I wasn't the most like, you know, on top of the world at this point in terms of what I
Yeah.
needed to know or not do. So there was that. I mean, I had to force myself to be more extroverted, honestly. Like I had to get to a point and convince myself that like social interactions and like meeting people and like showing that value up front in a genuine way is going to be helpful and not just kind of sit on the sidelines where a bunch of other people were there kind of taking up the show, having a good like back and forth.
So what would you tell yourself, like actual things to do? That version of yourself that had three friends. What would you say? Hey, Austin, here's what you need to
Yeah,
do to get the results that you want in the quickest way possible.
I would say in terms of the mentoring group, like be very, very intentional about doing the weekly exercises. Within like the first 3 weeks, like there's so much there. Just being proactive about that, holding yourself accountable. Like no one's gonna hold your like hand about that. Like you really have to go out of your way to do it yourself. So that'd be the first
So
thing.
so which like specific exercises, like mentoring, let's say they aren't in the
Oh yeah,
mentoring
yeah,
program, what would you actually tell
they're
them
in
to
it.
do?
I think envisioning the life you want to have and all the exercises that go along with that,
Right.
very, very important. Kind of recalibrating how you're thinking about things. Going into that process, you really do have to start changing the way you see stuff. Like I definitely did. I was kind of in a headspace of nothing is really working out. I feel very like stuck. And I had to stop thinking that way and I had to start thinking these opportunities are like coming my way. I'm actively meeting the people I need to each week to make these things happen. So that's a big part of it too. And then you really just have to go out and do it. If you say you're going to go to this coffee shop on Sunday and talk to five random people, like you need to do it. Otherwise, nothing really will happen. So I think those are the three biggest things. And then like asking questions if you don't understand anything about a certain part of it. Because I definitely did that. There have been a number of things where I had not had any context about like the material or just like the ideas behind it. And I wanted to get a bit more clarity. And I think like those are the four biggest parts of it that really helped me out. I mean, the accountability partner you get pretty early on is pretty great. I still talk to him about stuff pretty much to
Who's
this
your
day.
accountability partner?
Kelton,
Oh, nice.
yeah, yeah,
Nice. So to start, you had the mindset and defining your social circle was like big.
hmm yeah,
And then and defining like who you want in that social circle, then you define the places that you feel you would meet the people that
Mhm.
you want to network with, that you want to do business with.
Mhm.
Where did you meet your girlfriend? At a bar or
No.
through work?
I did a photo shoot for one of my friends. One of the models from that hosted a party for some music artists on like a Friday night after work. I was really like dead tired that week, honestly. But I was like, I felt like I needed to go to it.
So you just
Um,
got invited.
I got invited. Yeah, I got invited to something. It was really, really cool. And at the time, music venues were pretty strict. So people around town had just been hosting stuff at their houses. So it was like an open thing, like catered and drinks and whatnot. And I was there solely to meet all the people in town who I knew I could probably help, promote them, promote their music, something like that. And that was a big thing that I had put into place. I wanted to be invited to these types of things. I wanted to, tap into that field and see where I could go with it. I think that was like a short-term goal that I had. So it was really cool to be invited to this as a direct result of something else that I kind of chose to kind of do that was out of my comfort zone. So that was great. But no, I met her there. It was like late into the party the whole time. I don't know, through I guess just through like the networking mindset, I was very in like a very like calibrated like social high, I guess, which was great. And then I just kind of like ran with it. But it was not my intention of going to that party at all. Like my intention was very much like business focused or just like, hey, I want to meet new people and like make new friends possibly. And it was just like an added kind of bonus. But it was also like the direct result of things that I had been focused on and really thinking about week to week as well.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, well, that's one thing I really like about you, Austin, is you really were intentional with all of the steps, and you even remember
Yeah.
them now. It was like step one, define. Step two, actually start going to those places, like
Hmm.
even if you don't feel like it, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
that party, you were kind
I
of tired,
definitely
but
did it. Yeah.
you went. And then
Hmm.
step three, start conversations with random people.
Yeah.
Was there another? I think you said there were four steps. Was there anything else I just missed there?
Um, well, the only other thing I did was, ask pretty defined questions anytime I didn't understand something.
Oh, within the
Whenever I was on
group,
the
like,
live calls, yeah, whenever I was on the live calls, I definitely had times week to week where if something came up that I didn't get or I wanted some more clarity about or wanted some advice towards, I was always pretty active about doing that. So
hmm,
that's another, I think, good practice. So yeah,
nice,
yeah.
nice, cool. What would be one other piece of advice you would give to your former self? Sitting there without the social circle that you had wanted. What
Hmm.
would be like one key thing you would do to motivate them into taking action, start building that?
And I would say that you need to define like the most important interest point because like I said, I had like three or four things I was actively trying to do. And the problem was they all took a good bit of effort and it was hard to do all of them at once, even though I wanted to do all of them. So I think you have to pick like an entry point and these things kind of go hand in hand. So for me, it was very much, hey, start defining what I want to see in my life, who I want to be around. What does the version of like myself look like who is in these settings? And
Mm,
then from there, it was a lot easier to take that info and put it towards what places I was trying to go or, what types of extra photo shoots I was wanting to do or who I was talking to on shoots for my job that I thought could benefit me in the future. But if you don't know like where that's coming from, it's kind of hard to be in those moments and actively do what you're trying to do. So I think that was like a really big thing too.
got it. Awesome. So, one more question, and then we can shift here. What
Hmm.
were how were you able to kind of get over the nervousness of approaching people and introducing yourself and start making connections with people that you don't know?
I think there was an element to my personality that already existed that didn't have too much of a problem with that. It wasn't like prominent though. It was situational, especially like before like the mentoring program. And that kind of brought it out more. But I would say I just focused on coming into those conversations knowing that I probably had something great to offer anyone I was talking to. Like I firmly believe that now. The skills I have with like my career path are pretty beneficial, and they're not everybody can do that. I mean, I'm sure you can understand with all the stuff you film, like it's not the easiest process to get into or to become pretty good at. So when I focused on that, and then also knowing that like I need to be doing this stuff, it just became like the whole thought of, oh, I'm nervous to talk to someone kind of went away because I had pretty clear like motivations behind it. Or like I had like 3 to 4 things in my head to tell myself like why I was doing it. It wasn't like I was just having a random conversation. And I think that's where you can get kind of nervous if you don't know where it's coming from. You know, when I was at places that I had heard from other people or I came up with myself that I wanted to be at, in my head I was already like, okay, I know there's at least like 3 to 4 people here who are probably either doing exactly like what I want to be doing or doing or know someone who is doing exactly what I want to be doing. So I do need to talk to them. So that's kind of how I framed it all. And I am a pretty social person anyway, and I like just randomly talking about whatever with people, so that helps. But again, that wasn't like as strong as it is now back then. So,
Nice. All right, we'll talk soon.
yeah,
Peace.
man, thanks a lot.